7 names, no games as I run it down the line. We got Kenny Ken, put 100 on the cheese with the streak for the cash. ESPN, Seth Curry with the shot. The prodigy. In reality, he's more like Seth, but he's all we got. Up next is Gentleman Jack, better known as Junior Blue. We told him not to do it anyway, but he did what he do. To his right is Devin, that dude, El Dad or Dirt Ass Dan. Just don't ask him a question, cause then he'll answer your question with another question, and then he'll add another question on top of that question. Damn. And I'm Red O, the Buck Wild Problem Child.
Flow Butter, aka John Cutter.
It's the league ambassadors, and we playing to win. At the 2-yard line, and make no mistake, we running it in. Pete Carroll, we see you.
Thank you for visiting 32 Kings Road. I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken. We're going to run it back one more time. This is episode 28 of our show 32 Kings Road, second season. Today we will continue our NFL International Series preview by discussing who should be on the Mount Rushmore for the Miami Dolphins franchise as well as the New Orleans Saints franchise. The two teams competing this upcoming Sunday at Wembley Stadium. We will also give our take on the uptick in NFL protest, the sorry state of the New York Giants, and the curious case of Carolina's offense. As a reminder, you can follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. Please visit our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors, and check out our website, theleagueam.com. Please pay special attention to Diplomatic Immunity, which is our on-site blog spot where fans of all creeds, colors, and kinds can speak their piece on what's going on in the world of sports. Check out our game previews given by Chef Curry, as well as the game picks that we make. And then finally, please rate, share, and download our podcast, 32 Kings Road, as well as our off-season show, Confirmation Bias. Let's get the show going. Kevin, what you sipping on, baby? He did it different.
Well, I am sipping on juice because I've been drinking alcohol every day for the last 5 days.
You're so responsible.
But hey, the Gloryboys are back in town. To see you guys.
You know that's a diss, right?
Well, to you guys, not me. Well, look, over the weekend, as you guys know, we went to London. We visited our namesake, 32 Kings Road in Chelsea, England, and we found out that it's actually a store that only sells clothes that fits Kenyon. So,
Whoa!
Other than that, great trip, Kenyon. You know I love you.
Redo, what you sipping on, baby?
Hey, just want to say your energy level was great this time. But I'm sipping on Tito's vodka, and I just have one question for London. Why is it so damn hot on those trains?
The tube.
The tube. 60 degrees upstairs, 95 degrees downstairs.
Mind the gap.
You know all about that, don't you?
I told you I'm sipping on Tito's.
Righteous O.
Righteous O.
I left him in London.
What you sipping on, Dev?
I'm sipping on Belvedere and orange juice, this screwdriver here in this nice Aquafina bottle.
Shout out to Aquafina.
Shout out to Aquafina.
Supplying cups to alcoholics for years.
Right. So I'm sipping on the fact that it's been decided for us, as was said before, but we've agreed that Kevin and I will no longer attend a live Ravens game because we are 0-3.
Together,
yes.
I tell you one thing, I'm not traveling 6,000 miles away for an ass whipping. That's for damn sure.
Jesus Lord.
Hey, at least it was over quick.
You're right.
It was decided.
But it took forever.
Well, I'm sipping on this hot toddy. Shout out to our friends in London, especially at Ryan Ingham 14.
Yes.
The website owner of weallloveleeds.co.uk.
Say it one more time.
weallloveleeds.co.uk.
Shout out to Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan. He's a friend of the show, and we actually look forward to having him out here. He's definitely a chief diplomat. Last week, we went 2-1 again on these picks because of the aforementioned Baltimore Ravens. Just
keep going.
Anyway, let's go 3-0 this week. And I'm going to start in London with New Orleans and Miami. Now, here's the thing. Miami has gone from Los Angeles because of the hurricane to Miami to the New York Jets, and now they're flying to London. Can you say jet lag? I got New Orleans. The line is, I think, -3.5. Just take New Orleans to lose. They're actually going to win the game. Secondly, we've got Atlanta. They opened up as a -8 favorite at home against Buffalo. Teased that line down 7-1 for them to win. They're going to stump out Buffalo. Finally, Arizona, 7-point favorites against San Francisco. Teased that line down to 0. Larry Fitzgerald is going to have a monster game because he doesn't have a choice. Put $100 down and thank the league ambassadors. Les, Junior Blue, what you sipping on, baby?
I'm sipping on this Jameson, this Irish whiskey. I wish it was the High Commissioner.
Yes, shout out to High Commissioner.
I couldn't get nothing back from the UK, but
And shout out to Highland Earl.
hey, Red O didn't want no parts of Highland Earl.
Until he did.
Until he did.
But
It was too cheap to be that good.
age 3 years. Hey, but what I'm sipping on is last year, Colin Kaepernick started kneeling as basically a peaceful protest to the social injustices and police brutality. Last year, some players actually knelt with him. Others showed other signs of support for him, but not a lot. There were a handful of players. This year, we have
guaranteed contracts.
This year, we have Trump making a statement that all players who kneel should be fired.
Sons of bitches.
Sons of bitches.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, all of a sudden, half the league wants to kneel. And owners included. Last night, Jerry Jones kneeled before the anthem, but stood for it. My question to you guys basically is, has what Kaepernick was actually protesting, has that been forgotten? And is it now just an anti-Trump statement? And if that's what it is, what does it take to get back to these social injustices?
I think that's a great question. I think the answer to that is yes, because from the side that opposes it, never knew what the protest was for in the first place. But I do think that the uptick in protests is basically because of someone telling somebody what they should do, and I think that's where that comes from. But
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but it's helping the cause in some sort of way.
I have a serious problem with what has happened because it's no longer about Kaepernick and what he was doing and what he was standing for or sitting for, whatever you want to call it. The narrative has been hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Jones doesn't know what social injustice is. The last time he was worried about police brutality was when his star wide receiver got arrested for cocaine. So, like, for him, he doesn't care. He doesn't even know why he was kneeling.
That's funny.
I mean, and that's real. Like, when it comes to Trump, you never listen to what he says. You just watch what he's doing. Because when he says something or types something, half the time it's for that basket of deplorables that he has, his base, to get them riled up. The other half is to blind you to what's going on, to get your mind off what's going on. So now they accidentally are playing three-dimensional chess because now the NFL and the owners have a reason to embrace the protests because it's no longer about young, unarmed black men getting shot dead in the middle of the street in front of their families. And now it's about the NFL against Trump. Because it has nothing, no one is talking about Kaepernick.
Yeah,
that's what
I
it's
agree
about.
with you, Righteous O. The narrative's definitely been hijacked. It's all lives matter all over again. Where they can put the concerns of black people and other people of color to the back burner to push their own agenda. And we've seen it happen in history time and time again. We're in a country where people are just flat out refusing to stand up for people of color. That's just simply what this is about. And they've turned Kaepernick's stance and other players' stance from police brutality and racial injustices into a stance against Donald Trump, which you can throw Trump in that gumbo and stir it up if you want, because, of course he's part of the problem, but it was never about him. And I think it's proof once again that in this country people do what is right out of convenience and out of popularity instead of simply because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
What happened to guys when Kaepernick got punished or basically got penalized for taking a stance, he's no longer able to get hired. And now you have people that are doing it now, and all of a sudden it's the right thing to do. But still, no one's standing up like Devin and Omar said for what he originally decided to take a knee for to begin with.
You also got people like Ray Lewis taking 2 knees, throwing everything out of whack, muddling everything, just not helping the situation at all.
So the thing that's interesting is, number one, the national anthem, the NFL players standing or being present on the field for the national anthem is something that is fairly new.
Yeah.
2009. And the reason why
Go ahead.
the NFL had the players to come out and stand for the anthem
Cut the check.
was for money purposes. The
Cut the
Department of
check.
Defense was interested in increasing recruitment, and they used the popularity of the NFL paying the owners to have the players to come out for the anthem. In college football, players are not on the field during the national anthem. So going back to last year when this whole upheaval started, and if you look at and identify the 7 owners that contributed to Donald Trump's campaign, and when owners had a problem with protests starting last year, you follow the money because they were getting money and it was fucking up their pockets. That's number one. But what's happened now, in my opinion, and for those of you that have not had a chance to listen to Greg Popovich's interview yesterday during the San Antonio Spurs Media Day, I implore you.
Jim Lampley's homeboy.
I implore you to listen to his comments that he gave. But one of the things that he talked about, he made the point of saying that discourse, the only way that a civil discourse can be effective is when the conversation turns uncomfortable. So to that I say, Donald Trump, thank you for making the conversation uncomfortable.
Right.
But this is the point that can't get lost, and it's exactly what you guys have already alluded to, and that is that the talk of unity and solidarity that is coming from the owners, is coming from some of the players. I'm not going to say most, but some of the players. It's nice and it's catchy. But for those people that have a financial incentive, which are the owners, right, one could surmise that the motivation is to create a happy medium that presents the upside to deviate this discourse. And let's not get it twisted. The discourse is about Black Americans being treated unfairly, specifically in terms of issues dealing with the police. Okay?
Yeah.
So we can't let that happen, and this is why we got to salute Bruce Maxwell. Bruce Maxwell, Oakland A's outfielder, took a knee. We got to salute Mr. Bill Russell because now the conversation and the movement is transcending football. Right? Yeah. There's a great article in the Washington Post about Bruce Maxwell and the conversation that he had with his college coach. I would encourage everybody to check it out. But then here's the last piece to this is that as more players are starting to become involved and more people are starting to become involved, the same challenge that we issue to Colin Kaepernick when he started, which was, hey, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Yeah, you got to put your actions. They've got to put their actions behind it now. This cannot just be about standing up against Trump. So it's not only about putting the message where it needs to be, but also now your action needs to support it as well.
Yeah, and to support what you said, it's funny how people can sit here and say that they want politics and race out of sports. Like, we want it out of our lives. It's a part of everything we do all the time, every day, from generation to generation. And we don't have the privilege of ignoring it like some people do. So knowing that, if you can call yourself an ally or a friend or down with what's going on, but turn around and be able to separate yourself from what we're going through every day, you're just as fake as the people that you criticize.
Well, they said Jackie Robinson shouldn't have been brought up to the big leagues out of politics in sports.
Kev, real quick, because I know we got to move on.
Do we? We got a good conversation
I
going.
mean,
the guy who always sings the national anthem for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, he ended up resigning earlier today. And he was such a big part, and you guys got to see it in London, but in our home games, when he sings the anthem right before he stops, let the crowd go nuts, and then sings it. He's been there for a few years. He resigned today and just said, I can't, black guy, said he can't be down with what's going on in this country and the sentiments coming from NFL fans. thanked everybody in the Ravens for the opportunity. Peaced out. And hopefully, this is my personal opinion, I hope the players follow suit.
Well, the thing is also, if I may, Omar, it's okay. It's okay if you're not okay with this. Because we want to know who you are too. Yeah. I think, and that's the part about it becoming uncomfortable. The conversation needs to be had. Exactly. So if you're not okay with it, don't hide behind the anthem because it has nothing to do with the anthem. It has nothing to do with and honestly, nothing to do with the flag. And honestly, if we looked at the anthem in its entirety,
that's some bullshit.
Okay. So let's be uncomfortable and it's time to stand up and it's time to declare. Either you are with the cause and you're with what is right and what is truthful and what is just, or you are not.
So and the funny thing, the NFL, they end up winning because now it looks like they're in solidarity.
Right.
But really, Trump wins because no one's talking about how he really started doing this because he realized he made a mistake on getting us one step closer to nuclear war with North Korea. Which is the only reason why he even did this shit. To get people off of that. Because his 6-year-old temperament is getting us closer to a nuclear bomb detonating and people dying.
My question for this, though, is with the speculation of ratings and viewership dropping because of whether before the season there's a bunch of people who are on the side of Colin Kaepernick that said they will not watch football until he gets a job. And now that people are more into the protests, now there are people saying they won't watch football until they make people take a knee. Who's actually winning this argument now?
Well, actually, there are the people who, that's the problem. There are people on both sides of the protest who are protesting and not watching.
Right.
Yeah, and there are no winners. There are no winners for those people that are on the right side of the argument because there's not been enough action taken to support the protest and the stance. And then the naysayers are not winning because they can't win. And they aren't winning because now we're at a point where people they have made the decision, and this I am encouraged by, that we're not going to take it anymore. You know, and so
we're not gonna take
it's only the movement is only going to build and get stronger.
Yeah, sorry, I had to.
No, I mean it's just it's the reality of it. There aren't any winners in this scorecard for those reasons, and it's unfortunate. It is unfortunate that 60 years after the civil rights movement, and and there's other places in the world. We just came from London. But there's other places in the world that have overcome this sort of ridiculous way of living and systemic oppression that America, supposedly the land of the free and the brave, is struggling.
Land of the free, home of the
Kevin,
brave.
Kevin, do you think, you mentioned it, do you think players will follow and walk out?
I hope so. And I think if things continue to go the way that they are, like you guys mentioned, Trump telling guys you need to do this or demanding that you stand out and support. At some point, I think people realize that our humanity is more important than sports, and people acknowledge the risk Colin Kaepernick took in sacrificing his livelihood for this. I think the only way you can take people seriously is if they take the same risk that he did. And I hope that it happens this year. As much as I love football, you guys love it. I think we are more important than the sport.
Right.
It's perfect time is Thursday. Aaron Rodgers, walk out.
We'll support you.
Well, he said I don't know if you guys heard what he said. He's imploring the fans. He's asking the fans. No. You don't stop on that street, Kevin. That's bait. But he is
That's a two-way conversation.
That was a two-way conversation, big time. That's why I said let's keep it moving.
Yep.
But
I can be coy.
He asked the fans to lock arms as well. And apparently, I guess it was Martellus Bennett's idea, but he stood up and he's asking the fans during the national anthem at the game this Thursday for them to lock arms. Which again,
it's whatever.
It's whatever. Let's move on. That was a very healthy discussion.
We can do overtime on that.
We can. Let's move on to Moments in Hendag, also known as our history segment, where we're going to talk about the Mount Rushmores for the Miami Dolphins and the New Orleans Saints. Those are the two teams that will be competing this Sunday at Wembley Stadium. 2 weeks ago, when we first looked at Miami, New Orleans, we examined common threads between the organizations. We talked about the Drew Brees what if. We talked about Ricky Williams. We talked about the similarities in both organizations' heyday, where they had a great coach and a great quarterback, but completely ignored the defense. And so today, we're going to look at the Mount Rushmores. Everybody unanimously had Don Shula and Dan Marino for the Miami Dolphins as two of the four, and then Sean Payton and Drew Brees. I want to kick this discussion off by asking you, though, and I want to put some facts out here before we get going. The question I want to ask is, has Drew Brees surpassed Dan Marino, who a lot of people, both old and young, football scholars of yesteryear, football scholars and fanatics of today, revere Dan Marino as one of, if not the best quarterback ever? Has Drew Brees surpassed him?
No.
No, I don't believe so either.
Hold on. one Super Bowl.
You asked the
We
question.
asked the question. We answered. Asked and answered.
One Super
Move
Bowl.
on.
One Super Bowl.
He said, wait.
1 Super Bowl to 0. Drew Brees is past him in TDs and completions and completion percentage, lower point of interceptions. He's third all time on the yards list.
All-time
And when you look at
When you're done, I have a question for you.
and
Keep
when
going.
and when you look at intangibles, like you're talking about a 5 foot whatever quarterback that has had
keep my height.
that's had inferior talent and inferior skill set, and he has been able to trump Dan Marino. We've got two that said a blanket no. Les, are you on that same token?
No. I say yes, he has.
I have a question for you.
Hold on. Les, can you explain yourself, Les?
I mean, for the numbers you spoke, I mean, Dan Marino was great, but once you start passing all his numbers and you get a ring, what's left?
Question
Can
for
he ever
anybody
be
who
there?
thinks. I have a question for anybody who thinks he has surpassed him. So who else?
Kev?
If we're comparing inside the Superdome, Drew Brees, maybe, but I say no. I don't think he has. He's a completely different quarterback outside of that dome.
No, I mean, I asked the question. Just because I asked the question doesn't mean that's how
I'm
I
asking
feel.
how do you feel?
I say Dan Marino is a better quarterback, but I believe it is a legitimate discussion.
Yes.
So
that is always
But
my-
you're
so what's your question?
you're snap answering as if it isn't. So what's your question?
No, it's not that it's not a discussion. I know what my answer is. We can still talk about it.
What's your question?
My question will always be, who do you take? And it's the same thing conversation I have with Aaron Rodgers and not Drew Brees, Tom Brady. Who do you take? Who does your GM take? Who does your coach take? And I don't know if there's a GM or coach who wouldn't take Dan Marino.
If you're building a quarterback, it's Dan Marino.
He
Fastest release ever.
Hell, 26 teams didn't take him when he came out.
And they fucked up.
Like when Peyton Manning won that Super Bowl, the first thing he said was, I don't believe because I won a Super Bowl, Dan Marino's still not the best quarterback I've ever seen. Like, you can't take it away his skills.
He played 17 years. In the 17 years, 76% of the Super Bowl winners had a 1,000-yard rusher. And 96% of them had a top 10 defense. He had 1,000-yard rusher and 4 top 10 defenses. That's it.
Question, Dan Marino plays today. How good is he?
Oh, he throws for 6,000 yards.
Shout
And
out
that
to
breakdown,
Kareem
though-
Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh my God.
That breakdown, though, sounds just like Drew Brees. And we talked about it last week, but the way that their teams relied solely on them, especially towards the end of their career, but they were all eggs in one basket on the passing game, didn't do much around them to help.
Right.
And it's the reason why Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl and the reason why Drew Brees won't get back to another one.
I mean, this dude, in his second year, after winning the starting job halfway through his first year, broke almost every single season record of a quarterback. He threw for 48 touchdowns. To put that in perspective, the highest amount of touchdowns thrown in the season was 36 before that. He broke it by 12. So if he did that now, that means he would have thrown 67 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know how I feel about Drew Brees. It's been my favorite quarterback since he was in San Diego.
Is he better than Warren Moon?
No.
Okay. I just want to see
That's where I was going.
Why'd you do that?
No, but that's where I was going.
Yeah.
He is
Les about to run the bus straight into the wall.
he is all time my third favorite quarterback. Warren Moon, Dan Marino, then Drew Brees. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't lose with either one.
No.
All right. So we'll stay with Miami. Don Shula. We all had Don Shula on as the Mount Rushmore. Devin, talk a little bit about Mr. Shula and why he definitely has to be on the Mount Rushmore. He might be on the Mount Rushmore of coaches. How about that?
There it is.
Well,
Definitely is.
let's talk about the fact that he was the coach and the de facto GM
That's
for
right.
25 years. In that stretch, he won 2 Super Bowls. He went to 5. And anytime he got to the AFC Championship game, he went to the Super Bowl, so he never lost there. He also was the person that put together the perfect team.
I was going to say, he put together and he coached
Right.
the perfect team.
So it's hard to get around that. And what's funny is he started with the Baltimore Colts.
That's right.
But when he left in '69 to go to Miami, which was like at the same exact time as the merger, they wind up getting into a little tampering little issue there.
Yeah, he cost he cost the Dolphins a first rounder.
Right. But it didn't wind up biting them in the ass. The Colts were shit after that. And then that was '69. They won 71 and 72 back-to-back and almost won 73. So even though he cost them a draft pick, he came out on top on that.
Kev, why Don Shula?
He also taught Larry Zonka how to run the football. I mean, dude was basically an offensive lineman playing fullback, and we see how Zonka's career turned out. He also, Devin talking about the perfect team, he also put together the what they call the no-name defense, which ended up being one of the best in the league.
And that's who chiseled the Mount Rushmore, because the no-name defense should be up there.
Yeah. So you mentioned Larry Zonka, Kevin. Both you and Devin had Zonka as the third Mount Rushmore member. Talk about Mr. Zonka.
Mr. Larry Zonka, the Hungarian horntail.
Oh, shit.
The two-time Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, was part of the 72 perfect season. Helped establish the league's. His offense broke the league's rushing record in 72. Averaged 5 yards a carry as a fullback, which is something we
5.4.
will never see again. Number 39 was retired by the team. Probably the most physical running back you'll ever see. There's a famous story about him, I think, occurring. He was penalized for unnecessary roughness during a play, running over a safety with his forearm, which I've never seen. But and he left to become part of the World Football League, which ended up just being dismantled, joined the Giants, and then came back to finish his career in Miami. Retired with the Dolphins and got inducted to the '87 Hall of Fame. So got to give props to Larry, one of the few white running backs in the league to actually get it done.
Hey, but that perfect year, they had 2,000-year rushers, right?
Mercury.
The first ever to do that.
Yeah, Mercury Morris.
Mercury rushed for 1,000 on the dot.
Right.
But the funny thing is about him is 75% of his rushing yards or rushing touchdowns were from the 3-yard line or less.
He was the hammer.
And he wasn't a running back. He was a straight-up fullback because Mercury was the running back or halfback. And he's still the all-time leading rusher for the Dolphins. So
Which in itself, and he's a fullback, in itself is amazing.
Because Dan Marino didn't have any rushers with him for 17 years.
Lorenzo White.
Again,
No,
shout
that
out to
was
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
So three of us had a fairly recent Miami Dolphin player, Mr. Jason Taylor, as a candidate on Mount Rushmore. Omar, you had him on there. Talk about Mr. Jason Taylor.
I did not.
You did have a. No, you had Jason Taylor.
Did I have Jason Taylor?
I did, if you'd like me to.
I even asked him, you're talking about the player?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
He's
okay.
sick, ladies and
He's
gentlemen. It's okay.
I don't know what happened there, but
Him
yeah,
downstairs.
No, Omar has Jason Taylor right
I
here.
do. Oh, you wrote it down?
Yes.
Okay.
let's,
Can you talk about the Hall of Famer?
Yes, so the great thing about Jason Taylor is that he's the all-time franchise sack leader by 50.
Yep.
So it's not even close. He might be arguably their best defensive player
next?
ever.
Jesus.
Cameron Wake.
Cameron Wake. He was the defensive player of the year in 2006, Hall of Famer, and he also has the most defensive touchdowns by a defensive lineman in the history of NFL.
Doesn't get knocked down because he quit on the Dolphins?
Well, he had a budding modeling career, so he had to address that.
Didn't he marry Zach Thomas's sister?
Oh, Zach Thomas, where are you? Where are you? We're looking for you.
Crossed all types of lines.
Zach, he's in a dark hole somewhere.
The Dolphins only have 3 retired numbers in that, Marino, Zonka, and Greasy.
But no one else has worn Zach Thomas or Jason Taylor's number.
That's true.
Because they will be retired.
Yeah.
Okay. You had the owner, Les, and I did as well, too, Mr. Joe Robbie. Talk about Mr. Joe Robbie.
You know what? Certain things impress me. You go from nothing to something. He had 2 immigrant parents. I think one worked his mom was a baker. Dad was a restaurant manager. Day after Pearl Harbor, he goes and he enlists in the Navy. I mean, damn. What a day to enlist. Afterwards, he goes and gets his law degree. Becomes a lawyer, gets into politics, and becomes a Minnesota Vikings fan. Becomes a season ticket owner there.
Because he's from South Dakota.
Yeah.
Yep.
And next thing you know, he puts together
He knew
a
it was
group.
a state.
Shout out to London.
Who obviously did not know that. He puts a group together, and they eventually form the Miami Dolphins. So, that's kind of a rags to riches story that I personally like seeing.
And not only that, he used his own money. Like
Right.
for him, it was especially during the critical year for him was that strikes shortened season of 1982. Depending on and if it would have gone on for the entire season, he stood to lose basically all of his money from his initial investment. So he's one of the rare owners. Jerry Jones also kind of has the similar story where they literally went all in on their franchise. And so Joe Robbie is definitely somebody that deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore. Kevin has someone who I've never even heard of. You want to talk about why this guy should be on the Mount Rushmore for the Dolphins?
Why this guy? Well, this guy is Dwight Stevenson, the center for the Dolphins, 5-time Pro Bowler. He was a center on the NFL 1980s All-Decade team, All-Decade first team, sorry. And the Dolphins' offensive line gave up the fewest sacks in the NFL for 6 seasons straight, with him anchoring the line, which, in my opinion, was next to the defense was the reason why the Dolphins were so successful during that time, because they could beat you up front. And it all starts with the center position. So Mr. Stevenson played in 3 AFC Championship games, 2 Super Bowls, was inducted into the Hall of Fame in '78, and is considered probably the greatest center in Dolphins history.
Okay, moving on to the New Orleans Saints. We all had Sean Payton. The question I want to ask, though, is Sean Payton on the Mount Rushmore because the rest of the coaches sucked for the Saints?
Yeah.
Yes. Jim Moore was the only other coach to have a winning record, and he was 0-4 in the playoffs.
And Sean Payton's the only one with a winning record in the playoffs.
Yeah.
6-4.
Okay, just checking.
It's not even a question.
Outside of Moore, nobody else had a winning record besides Sean Payton. That's crazy.
Yeah, no one.
And they had
And they went to the playoffs a couple times, so that means that they stuck around for the sex.
They stuck around for the sex. Okay, so it's funny. Omar's talking about the Aints, and Kevin and I, we went a different way. We said that, well,
I'm a Bears fan.
Kevin said that the Aints should be on the Mount Rushmore for the Saints.
just a bag.
I said that it should be a paper bag with the word Aints on the inside. But for the first 20 years of their tenure, the Saints, their existence, they were non-competitive. They were only 500 twice. Kevin, what do you want to add to that?
I want to add that they were also rubbish. No, straight trash from 67 to 87. I don't think they had a winning season. They had 9 double-digit losing seasons during that span. And if you showed up to a game with a paper bag over your head, you deserve a spot on Mount Rushmore for me.
Apparently, the idea came from a local sportscaster in 1980 who just said that they were so bad that they needed to show up with paper bags. And literally, I want to say that I was born in 1983. when I started watching football in 1988, 1989, my introduction to the Saints were those paper bags. Yeah. Straight up.
And that's why I tell people all the time, that's why I'm a Bears fan. My father is a calm man, but when he watched the Saints, it's the only thing he used to curse at and throw shit at the TV. And then the Bears came along in 84, 85, won a Super Bowl. I wasn't trying to be a fan of people who were so ashamed they wore bags over their heads.
That's dedication right there.
Mm-hmm. Devin had one.
That's insanity.
Devin had one singular player on his Mount Rushmore, Mr. Willie Rofe. Talk about Mr. Rofe.
AKA Nasty.
AKA Nasty.
Rofe.
Hey, man, Jesus, man. I'm sorry, Willie. Hall of Famer. Left
they
tackle.
only have two, right?
No, they have.
Yeah, Ricky Jackson and Willie Wolf. But just my question.
Ricky Jackson is the only true.
I was gonna say quick question is did Willie Wolf go in as a Saint or did he go in as a Chief?
I would think he went in as a Chief because
they have several partial.
Yeah, because there's partial, but he played more seasons with the Saints.
Uh-huh.
So he's 11-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All Pro. He's the first team Hall of Famer on the 90s team. And the list of quarterbacks that he had to play with.
Name them.
Murderer's Row.
Yeah. Wade Wilson, Mike Buck, Steve Walsh, Jim Everett. That was just in 93.
Wait, that was one season?
That was one. Steve Walsh, 93. Jim Everett, Doug Nussmeier, Heath Schuler, Billy Joe Holbert, Danny Warfel, Kerry Collins, Billy Joe Tolliver. They ran the gamut with the Billy Joes.
Billy Joes.
Jake Delhomme, Jeff Blake, and Aaron Brooks.
Jeff Blake.
That's who he blocked for.
Aaron Brooks.
Man.
Damn.
And he made the Hall of Fame. So he was doing his job. They were not.
Wow.
Omar, he selected Mr. Tom Benson.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I get it. I feel your looks. Truthfully, there's a lot of negative press about Mr. Benson. But if you go to New Orleans,
you know Omar's serious. He said Mr. Benson. Keep going.
I've been drinking vodka. If you go to New Orleans, there's a lot of love for Mr. Benson, and you don't know it until you get there, till you get to Benson Square, and every week before a game, they don't have Purple Friday, but they have these, what do you call them?
Pep rallies?
Pep rallies in Benson Square.
Mm-hmm.
There is love for him as an owner because of the things he's done in New Orleans that didn't get positive press.
Okay.
The negative things got press, but he's done just as much or more in New Orleans for that city. And he brought the championship to New Orleans, regardless of what anybody else thinks.
He's Gucci.
He's Gucci.
So
there's only 3 people in New Orleans who will never have to pay for a thing: Benson, Peyton, and Breeze. Everybody else, they got to pay their own way.
So on the other end of the spectrum, from an executive standpoint, Les feels like Mr. Mickey Loomis needs to be on the Mount Rushmore for the New Orleans Saints, and I can't tell if that's serious or tongue-in-cheek.
For the name alone.
Well, hold on. Hold on. He did hire Sean Payton.
Okay.
He did sign Drew Brees.
He did.
Which led to the 2009 Super Bowl championship.
He signed Drew Brees because of a royal
The Dolphins did.
Hey,
because that's all he was left with.
Another man's trash.
Another man's treasure.
Yep.
All right. But since that Super Bowl, they've been trying to chip that shit down. I mean, the what's the name gate? The Bounty Gate.
Bounty Gate.
You know, he up there paying players to injure other players. The owner, Mr. Benson, knew about it. Tells Loomis, "Hey, tell them to stop." He's like, "Nah, I ain't gonna do that." Nah, I like this. This is the fun part of the game. This is what I bet on. And then a couple years later, he has eavesdropping allegations.
Yeah.
What is this? The New England Patriots?
So why'd you put him there?
Because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have the Super Bowl championship. But they've been trying to chip it down since they put it up.
And Kevin feels like they should replace Mickey Loomis with Archie Manning.
Elisha Archibald Manning, a.k.a. Peyton's daddy. Not Eli's daddy. He's not related to them.
Cooper's daddy.
Like my father used to say,
Cooper's
they
there.
found him on a levee.
Oh my God.
But nah, I went
Seriously.
with Archie. Listen, his career struggles were just simply not his fault. He was on just a god awful team. Played 10 seasons with the Saints. 9 of them were losing seasons. Despite a lack of offensive line and any weapons, he led the league in pass attempts and completions. Led the NFC in passing yards. Though the team's record was 2-11-1. And he also won NFC Player of the Year when they had a 7-9 record. And just to show you how bad they were.
Wait a minute. Did you say that he won NFC Player of the Year with a 7-9 record?
He did indeed.
Wow.
That's how good he was, but bad his supporting cast was.
And he might be the most athletic quarterback to ever play.
His highlight tape is he was always on the run. That's Archie on the run, man.
He did not have Willie Roaf in front of him.
No, just to show you how bad his supporting cast was. Jack Youngblood was quoted as saying that they were known to take it easy on Archie, not to hit him so hard. How bad the protection was.
Jack Youngblood said that?
Yes, and Archie has said when Jack was inducted to the Hall of Fame that he should have been his introductory speaker because he wouldn't have got to the Hall of Fame without playing against Archie Manning. So I thought that was great. But if he would have had a supporting cast around him, like maybe the offense that Drew Brees has now, who knows what his son has around him now that he can't seem to get anybody the ball.
Oh, foreshadowing.
I kind of feel like, honorable mention should be Bobby Hebert just because his name
is awesome.
Herbert. But it's pronounced.
Shout out to Ricky Jackson.
Let's try this again. 3 out of the 4 of us, including Omar, had Ricky Jackson as the 4th member. Omar, why did you have Ricky Jackson?
Because he is the one true Saint in the Hall of Fame. 13 seasons, 5 Pro Bowls. And I'm going to say it again. Even though we know there's going to be other Saints in the Hall of Fame, we know there's 2. There's going to be a coach and there's going to be a quarterback. But right now, he's the one true Hall of Famer they have.
The Dome Patrol is, first of all, one of the best linebacking units in NFL, if not the best linebacking unit in NFL history. Ricky Jackson was the man.
Also,
yep,
his name sounds like he should have been in New Jack City. Like, his name is awesome. So you got to put him up there.
Well, I always just thought he was Freddie Jackson's brother, but that's another thing. As a kid.
Shout out to Freddie T.
All right, let's move on to our Brexit boot bag winner. Omar, who's our Brexit boot bag winner?
Leon Lett. Y'all, Kenyon a little slow today.
It took him a second.
So, it was a bad day. We went to the game. The Ravens got their ass whooped.
Yeah.
Bad. And they're looking at me for their hopes. The Bears are up 14-7 on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Righteous O.
A field goal was blocked, and the ball dropped in Leon Lett's hand. Safety Marcus Cooper of the Bears. He runs from the 35-yard line to the opposite 25-yard line and starts to slow down as if no one was behind him. Pittsburgh Steelers, who are coached by a real coach, did not give up on the play. At the 1-yard line, they knocked the ball out of his hand because he's showboating. And the ball went out the back end of the end zone for a touchback, and the Bears did not score a touchdown. Now, we won the game.
Thank you, Jesus.
In overtime. See, I told y'all. In overtime. But Mr. Marcus Leon Lett Cooper is our boot bag award winner of the week.
Golf clap for Mr. Cooper.
He almost
Hey, let me ask y'all something. That game was in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
How did he not know to look up at that $1 million scoreboard to see that there were guys running behind him? I don't.
Because you have to act like you've been there before.
Hey, but y'all won. So.
No, he has not.
Fucked up all the money.
Because he would have had to walk all the way back to where was he from? Charlotte. And they would have gave him back.
Arizona.
Was it Arizona?
The Cardinals.
Same team.
Let's move on to football tea, also known as Hot Topics.
While you sip your tea.
While I sip my tea. Carolina, folks. Now, last week, I believe when we made our picks, we was like, hey, if Cam Newton's going to get healthy, he's going to get healthy off of the New Orleans Saints defense. 3 interceptions, 17 of 26, 167 yards total. 3rd lowest rating of his career. No Ryan Khalil, no Greg Olsen. Lost Kelvin Benjamin to a knee injury in the first half. No deep throws. Everything's a check down. Christian McCaffrey had a great game. He had 11 catches for 80 yards. That's still 19 fantasy points.
They're still one of the worst defenses in the league, even after that game.
Which shows you how much trouble Cam Newton is in and that Carolina offense.
Devin Funches is their number 1 receiver.
Christian McCaffrey is their number 1 receiver.
I was going to.
Is something wrong with Cam Newton?
Yes.
Is he hurt? Is he hurt?
He doesn't look right. I mean, he gets tackled. He lays on the field.
I don't know.
That was him wearing women's clothes getting tackled.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
So he doesn't look right. The game I watched, it was a simple tackle too, and he laid on the ground for a good 2 minutes and then got up. And he just doesn't look right, like you said. It's all checkdowns. I mean, just think about it like
think
this.
There's something wrong with him mentally.
Well, Christian McCaffrey also hasn't scored.
No, that's real.
Lord have mercy.
Serious.
No, he's their leading receiver.
He's
at
not there.
57 yards a game.
Yeah, well, leading receiver and catches too, but he still hasn't scored running or passing.
No.
So you say something. So if something is wrong with him, Kevin, why are they playing him? I mean, why don't they just do why don't they just do what Indianapolis is doing? Wait until he's healthy, because this is not helpful.
Not at all.
At all.
No, and I don't necessarily know if he's not healthy, but I think it's a combination of him recovering from surgery and then trying to get his lack of weapons involved. I mean, he had last week against that terrible defense, he had only 2 receivers that had over 10 yards receiving. That's just ridiculous. And one of them was his rookie running back. Their line can't protect him. His options, like Devin said, are limited. But even still, as bad as their offense played, they still gave up 149 rushing yards to the Saints run game, who hasn't existed until today.
He's been
so
sacked
they
10
got much
times.
more problems than just Cam Newton, whether he's healthy or not.
I really think he's checked out. I think he's okay physically. I think he's checked out. You got questions. How's the O-line? O-line's horrible.
Sacked 10 times in 3 games.
Who is he throwing it to?
Devin Funches.
Nobody right now.
Is he healthy physically or mentally? I think
know.
he's healthy physically. I think he's unhealthy mentally because he's still wearing women's clothes. Are they calling the right plays? Who's the offensive coordinator?
Riley.
And then again, who is telling him to wear women's clothes?
I think it comes back to that for Omar. Let's move on.
New York Giants.
Talking points.
61-yard field goal by a rookie kicker. Philadelphia ended the game for them. They're 0-3, guys. Is it over?
Offensive line. Can't run the ball. And that shit ain't changing.
Who they play this week?
And now the defense is starting to lose its grip because they gave up 193 yards rushing to the Philadelphia Eagles, whose running backs are who? Exactly. Wendell Smallwood and LeGarrette Blount.
Defense can only be on the field so long.
For so long.
Yeah, and their next 3 games is no cakewalk. They go to Tampa, they got the Chargers at home, and then they go to Denver. It's
going
over.
to be 0-6.
And later in the season, they got to go to Oakland for the Raiders. They got to go to Arizona, and the Seahawks are coming to see them. So
Pornstash might be the first coach fired.
he might. You know what? That's the other thing. Ben McAdoo. Well, and he's catching heat because, again, like I said last week. Well, not only that, last week I said he threw Eli Manning under the bus. Then he threw the O-line under the bus. Then this weekend he was supposed to be taking over play calling duties, and there was supposed to be a difference, and there was no difference. So,
Odell's a beast, though.
Odell Beckham, he's a dog.
You need to throw that mustache under the bus.
Okay, finally, Kansas City and Atlanta. There are only, after 3 weeks, 2 teams that are undefeated.
Don Shula's happy.
Question I got for you guys. Who's going to stay undefeated the longest, Kansas City or Atlanta? We'll do a round table. Give me when they lose and who stays the longest, stays undefeated the longest. Kevin?
I actually think they both lose the same week, but Atlanta stays undefeated longer because they play at New England on the 22nd, and I think they lose that game, and I think Kansas City loses at Oakland Thursday night 3 days before. So it's the same week, but Kansas City plays first.
Redo.
If that makes sense.
I think Kansas City loses first playing the Patriots.
Kansas City loses first playing the Patriots?
Yeah,
They
actually.
beat
I'm going to give you one more time. Kansas City
All right.
loses first playing the Patriots?
Falcons.
Atlanta plays Patriots first.
The Raiders, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Both of you guys were wrong.
Kansas City.
The Raiders. Kansas City plays the Raiders.
Yes.
When that happens, they lose first.
Yes. I've been saying it from the beginning. I don't think Atlanta has a hangover from. I think they're the same team from last year who actually got better with their offseason moves.
Dad?
I think Atlanta stays longer until the Patriots. I agree because the Chiefs play the Texans and then in 2 weeks and then
Atlanta
the Steelers
has a
right
first
after
bye
that.
week.
So Texans or Steelers, you got them getting tripped
Yeah.
up. Okay. We know what Les says.
Yeah, they're done with the Raiders, and I had the Patriots beating the Falcons.
Because it's in New England.
So
in New
so
England,
Les,
yeah.
you agree with me?
I definitely agree with you, but you
Yeah.
still.
Who the hell is Hunt? Where did he come from?
Kareem Hunt out of Toledo.
Jesus.
Hey, he is getting that work. But you know Andy Reid. You know what Andy Reid's gonna do. He's gonna do two things. He's gonna do two
Stop
things.
running the ball.
He's gonna run him in. No, he's gonna run him into the ground. He's gonna get hurt. In a key situation, Devin,
He won't run the ball.
he won't run the ball.
And then he'll fuck off the timeout.
Well, and then, Alex will become Alex eventually. He's going to forget he has somebody waiting in the wings.
All right, let's get to our game picks, fantasy feedback, game picks. First of all, let's look at what our records are. Well, we don't have to look at it, really.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, bring him
Yeah,
up.
we do.
Pause
Yeah,
them up
we
there
do.
for a second.
We don't have to look at them. We got a three-way tie for first. We got Joe holding down the middle. He's the biggest. That's what he should do. And then we've got
He ain't here to defend himself.
Omar, and it's fine. It's early in the season, 22 and 25. We'll make up some ground. Dolphins Saints. I already in my teasers told you what I felt about the game. I like the Saints. Kev.
Oh God, two teams that don't travel well are going to a neutral site. I'll take the Dolphins.
All right, Redo.
Saints.
Dad.
Dolphins in the shootout.
Dolphins in the shootout.
Saints.
Saints. Okay. Oakland versus Denver at home. We know what Les feels. Dad, what you got?
I took the Broncos just because they're at home. That's it.
Redo.
Oakland.
Oakland. You're not worried about that?
Oakland.
No, he's not worried about it.
He's on that train.
He's on the train. Kev.
He said Oakland. I agree with Les again. Yeah,
There we go.
Really? I'm
Lone
taking.
Wolf?
No. I'm taking
Okay.
Denver at home.
All right.
Yeah. Tennessee versus Houston. This is a huge
It's a good
game for Houston. Deshaun Watson's getting better. This is a must-win for them though because they tricked off game 1 against Jacksonville.
Yep.
They cannot lose
did
this
they?
game, or did they? Good question. I'm going to take Houston at home. I think Deshaun Watson. This is the Deshaun Watson breakout game. I've got them winning at home. Les.
I got the Texans also.
I have Titans. They're just a better team right this second.
They ran for 195 yards against Seattle Seahawks defense. They ran it down their throat.
Seattle Seahawks defense is one of the worst running defense in the league right now.
Okay, who do you have? Tennessee or Houston?
I have Hennessy Titans.
Hennessy.
Hennessy Titans. All right. And Kevin, who do you have?
Just off a coin flip, I'm going with Tennessee.
Tennessee. All right. Fantasy recommendations. Again, check us out on social media. Junior Blue is going to give the DFS recommendations. But right now, fantasy recommendations. Quarterback, I like Russell Wilson feasting on the Indianapolis Colts. Dalvin Cook, rookie out of Florida State, going against the Detroit Lions. He's run for 100 yards every week. And as I said in my teasers earlier, Larry Fitzgerald, because he doesn't have a choice. Dad, who are your 3 picks?
I have Phillip Rivers versus the Eagles.
All right.
That's a West Coast trip.
Yep.
I have Julio Jones finally getting off versus the Bills.
We waiting on Julio.
We waiting
man.
on you, Julio.
Julio costing me money.
And then I got Jarvis. If he doesn't go to
Devontae Parker.
No.
Miami?
Where do we go to club? Sudich.
Trapeze.
Trapeze. We don't go to trapeze.
If you don't go to
Jarvis Landry versus Saints.
if you stay out of Shortage.
Shortage. That's what I'm talking about.
Please stay out of shortage.
Redo.
I couldn't think of the
I
city.
got Matty Ice
Matty Ice.
connecting with your boy. Mike Evans, because they gonna make a point to get
He
him the goddamn
went
ball.
the fuck off on Jameis Winston.
So that's happening.
He got
next
real
week.
light skin.
And Elliott against the 28th ranked Rams defense.
Ezekiel Elliott. Okay, Kev.
Since nobody wants to give me credit, I'm hot on my fantasy picks. I agree with you, Ken. Russell Wilson against Indy. Ezekiel Elliott against those terrible Rams. And Mike Wallace. Whose mans is you? He gonna do it this week against his old team, the Steelers.
Okay, Kevin wants us to acknowledge the fact that last week, in the shocker, he did say Jared Goff would have a great game.
He did.
And he actually did.
And who else did I pick? Kareem Hunt, but it's cool.
All right, before we get out of here real quick.
Again, who the fuck is Kareem Hunt?
Before we get out of here, just want to say a special thank you to the folks that we met over across the pond in the UK.
Yes, sir.
I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, that we met the heads of the fan clubs for the Packers, the Jaguars, the Steelers,
Ravens,
the
UK.
Bears, the Ravens. So made some really good connections. Any other thoughts you guys want to add up about the trip?
Shout out to motherfucking Woody's. On Kilbourne Road. Everybody talk shit about how bad.
Maidville.
Hey, everybody talk bad about how bad English food was, but we found the one Turkish restaurant by a restaurant.
Hold on, and what about the walk?
Oh, late night.
Walk to the walk. Walk
The
to the
4
walk.
a.m. move.
Yeah, the 4 a.m. move.
Hey, my takeaway, one, I saw two of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. The same part of town. So I'll be going back. And hey, shout out to everybody overseas who is really invested into NFL sports just as much as we do, if not more. Because those dudes at the restaurant with us were pretty much ready to fight. We said something bad about their team. So we're not as different as we think.
Yeah, that was really the big takeaway for me, was that these fans, one, they're so bloodthirsty when it comes to their football, their soccer, that for them the NFL is just a big relief. And the sheer joy and enthusiasm for the game, it just let me know let me know that we're doing the right thing and that we're on to something. The other thing is, though, they're not just blind fans. They know their shit.
They know their shit.
They don't know their geography.
Right.
And for those of you want to know what we're talking about, we go around and we'd ask questions. And one of the main questions that we asked them was, and I want you to listen for this, the Minnesota Vikings play in what state? 90% of the folks that we talked to said Minneapolis.
And some of them were American.
But anyway, yeah.
Shout out to free speech. Shout out to fighting for what's right. That's all I want to say.
All right.
Oh my God.
We can't even.
He skipped over me. He asked everybody else except
We
me.
weren't finished, Omar.
You was about to wrap it up. I know you. fool.
No, I was not about to wrap it up. I haven't even asked Les what his takeaway was. Les, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway was, at the games, we know we're in the right spot, mainly because at the games, when there was any kind of penalty, they would put up the rule on the scoreboard. If it was holding, they tell you exactly what it was, because a lot of the people don't know the basics of the game. And I think we're here to help them out with it all.
Yeah, Dev?
I would just say that, like, on the train ride back, as painful as it was, there were a couple of teenagers who were talking about. One dude had a Browns jersey on. The other dude had like a Seahawks jersey. It was random. But the dude was a Seahawks fan. I mean, was a Cleveland Browns fan. Imagine that. We can't find them in L.A. But they were talking about.
I don't think you can find them anywhere.
They were talking about fantasy football like no other. They were like, damn, I put in Javaris Allen because I thought Terrence West would be shit. And they both were shit. They got blown out. And like they were just talking about
that love was there.
The shit that we would normally talk about at the water cooler day to day with fantasy football. Right. And they were talking about it like it was nothing. The one guy was explaining to, I think it's like his older sister, was talking about how college was different from the NFL. He was like, oh yeah, Alabama, They had a shitty quarterback, but their running back was the Heisman winner, so they just gave him the ball every time. But that would not work in the NFL because they knew the difference, and they even knew college teams.
Yeah,
and from a young age, and just to take away from it what the Admiralty, the Green Man, the Jaguars pub that we went
Finery.
to. Yeah,
Shout out to Fred Taylor.
Shout out to
Freddie T. And what's the lineman?
Jeff
Loggerman.
Jeff Logman, number 56 for the Jaguars. Shout out to him. Tony Baselli.
Tony Baselli was there. Mark Brunell.
Cheerleaders.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Ken. One last takeaway. I think we need to give props to Father Tom, who was 99-0 until he met Righteous Omar. You're the only one that beat death, man. Props to you, man.
Hey, Omar turned over a whole new leaf
for the rest of the trip. Shout out to my brothers who saved my life.
Shout out to Look Right.
Look right. Because I was risking it all to look left. And it's the opposite side over there.
And on that note, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for visiting 32 Kings Road. Follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle's at The League AM. Visit our website. Check out our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. We will see you next week. Cheerio.
Woodies. 2-yard line, run it in, Pete Carroll. Let's go.
7 names, no games as I run it down the line. We got Kenny Ken, put 100 on the cheese with the streak for the cash. ESPN, Seth Curry with the shot. The prodigy. In reality, he's more like Seth, but he's all we got. Up next is Gentleman Jack, better known as Junior Blue. We told him not to do it anyway, but he did what he do. To his right is Devin, that dude, Eldad or Dirt Ass Dan. Just don't ask him a question, cause then he'll answer your question with another question, and then he'll add another question on top of that question. Damn. And I'm Red O, the Buck Wild Problem Child.
Flow Butter, aka John Cutter.
It's the League Ambassadors, and we playing to win at the 2-yard line. And make no mistake, we running it in.